Welcome to Confessions of a Parent Coach. I'm Coach, a mother of four, and potty talker, Ann Kaplan. This is the podcast where I confess something from my own parenting and coaching life, teach a lesson around it, and answer your questions. Even we parenting experts are far from perfect, and the real magic happens when we get down with all that imperfection. We get into the gritty side of parenting here, so earbud up and dive in.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back into another episode of the Confessions of a Parent Coach podcast. I'm excited to be here with you again this week, talking about something that actually a group member a couple weeks ago brought up in my mind. She was about to go on a trip for the first time with her kids all by herself. And she was going to be on the airplane. And she was like, I am terrified. Like, what if my kids don't behave themselves? I've got all of these tools that I can use at home. But, for example, when I give my kid a consequence, sometimes he cries and screams about it. And that's okay at home. But what if he does it on the airplane? And it brought up this whole concept that I want to talk to you about today, which is everybody judging me, or what happens when you have an audience? You take your show on the road, and we all feel that kind of pressure or almost desire to have everybody be on their best behavior because we don't want everybody's judgments. And that is absolutely not only unique to you guys. I have the same feelings sometimes too. And that is kind of the what I want to talk to you about for my confession today. So actually recently I have been in this position. um so last week and the week before I was teaching a class to the staff at my kids' school. When we started going to the school this year, somebody noticed on my email signature that I'm a parent coach and a Love and Logic independent facilitator. And someone from the school reached out to me and said, "Oh my gosh, we've been looking for somebody like you. Could you come in and teach our staff about how to manage behavior in the classroom?" And of course, my first instinct was, heck yeah. I love teaching in schools. I love working with any kind of care provider, whether it's a parent or a teacher or a nanny or someone who runs a daycare center or whatever. Love it. And what an amazing opportunity. And especially at my own kids' school, all I was thinking about is I love the school. I love the philosophy. I know that teaching to these like minded people is going to just feel really great and rewarding. And I was right. But what didn't occur to me until I was actually in the training with these people is these people know my kids. And all of a sudden, I started getting really concerned about, like, what if my kids aren't super well behaved in these teachers' classrooms? And, here I am sitting and acting like this parenting expert or education expert or behavior expert saying, this is what you do when your kid misbehaves and this is how you can improve behavior, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, is everybody in this room just thinking, like, you obviously don't know what you're talking about. Your kid sucks. I literally was like, crap, I could really be making a fool of myself right now. And it was just one of those moments. I feel like I've done a lot of great work on myself over the years, but it was one of those moments where I felt like, damn, I really care what other people think of me and my kids. I care that we have this image to the outside world of that we've got our shit together basically. And, the same thing happened just last week. I was at a dinner party at a friend's house with, friends that we know, but we're not super close with. And everyone's kids were there. And my teenage daughter was not super pumped to be there. And she wasn't behaving very nicely or friendly or, warmly. She just wanted to leave. And I was embarrassed. And instead of letting that be her deal and not get involved or not try to like manage her in ways that I never would do at home, I totally felt the urge to, you know, kind of give her a bit of a guilt trip for behaving in this way that wasn't very cool and was making me look bad and all that stuff. So if you're out there feeling like I care what other people think of me, my kids embarrass me, um, all of those things, you are not alone. I care what other people think too. And sometimes, if I'm not careful, I find myself parenting differently when I have an audience than when we're by ourselves. And you know what the craziest thing is? When we parent differently, when we have an audience, we don't usually parent better. We parent performatively. And that usually means trying to be pretty coercive with our kids, like the example with my daughter at this dinner party. Like, good parenting would have been to say, I don't really care to be around you when you're acting this way, but beyond that, you're going to be in a grouchy mood if you're going to, and that's too bad for you and the people who choose to interact with you, but I'm not one of those people. That would have been really great parenting. But the parenting that I resorted to with my audience was not great parenting. It was, Gigi, you're not being very kind, and can't you do this, and blah, blah, blah. That's not good parenting. It's like if you have an audience, you think you try to do your best. But for us as parents, once we start feeling, embarrassed or self-conscious about how our children are behaving, we start parenting terribly, because instead of parenting without an agenda, we are parenting with a massive agenda, which is toe the line so I'm not embarrassed, right? So let's talk about that today. And my favorite way to talk about this is what I kind of say to a lot of my clients, when they say things like, I'm just worried that people might be judging me. I'm worried about what people in the grocery store are thinking. Like, is everybody on the plane thinking, oh my God, I can't believe this lady's kid is so noisy or whatever? Is everyone judging me? The answer is yes. Yes, everyone is judging you. Human beings are like judgers. We're judging machines. It is absolutely, I don't want you to spend one more minute of your life wasting even one joule of energy on wondering if people are judging you. They are. People are judging you. Never need to waste any brain power wondering if that's true or not. It is true. They are judging you. And there's a huge difference between being judged and feeling judged. So instead of trying to behave in ways that make people not judge us, because that's not possible, first of all, because you can't control other people, but also because they definitely are judging you. Instead of putting any energy into trying to control that thing that's out of our control, we need to put our energy into how we feel when people judge us. Because if we are ever going to kind of get a handle on this and parent well, even when we have an audience, and not compromise our parenting values when we're in public, the problem isn't that people are judging us. It's the problem is that we care. If you can get beyond that caring, if you can just not care when people are judging you, you can be the most kick-ass parent on the planet, no matter who's around, no matter what people think, no matter even the feedback you might be getting, not just sideways glances, but the shade your mother-in-law throws, or, some snide passive aggressive comment your sister says or something like that. It doesn't matter. The problem isn't the judging. The problem is the caring. So let's talk about this. This is kind of what I have figured out works for me. And it's kind of a spiel that I've given some of my clients when these topics arise for them. And that is, you know, the most important thing on the planet to you as a parent. I don't know you. I don't know what you look like. Never laid eyes on you, listener, but I feel really confident in saying that the most important thing on the planet to you is your child. I feel like that's not too much of a stretch. So if that is true, it's true when you're at home and it's true when you're in the grocery store. And when we compromise our parenting, here we are listening to this podcast, or maybe you're in my, coaching group, or maybe you're working with me one on one, or maybe you read my emails, whatever. Here we are putting energy into being the best parent we can be and figuring out what is the way to respond to my child that honors my child, does right by my child, helps my child make better choices in the future without crushing their spirit or dishonoring them or abusing them. Like, we're working really hard to figure out how we can do that. And we figured it out. Let's say you and I have been working together for a couple of months. You've learned some amazing parenting skills. You're starting to see the results of those parenting skills. Shit is working and you feel kind of like a badass. So now, not only have you decided that this is an important thing to you, you've invested in this thing, you've actually learned this thing, and it is now part of your value system, your way of being. Okay, now you go to the grocery store. Is there something about the grocery store that makes it that now all of a sudden your kid isn't the most important thing on the planet to you? Or that all of the stuff that you spent all of that time and money figuring out how to do for yourself isn't true anymore? No, of course not. Of course, authoritative parenting is the gold standard in parenting, whether you're in your house or in the grocery store. Of course, your child is the most important thing on the planet to you, whether you're in your house or on an airplane. Of course, the things that are appropriate and effective parenting skills are the same, whether you're in your house or you're at grandma's house. It doesn't matter. When we decide because we're in the grocery store or because we're on an airplane or because we're at our, mom's house or something like that, that now I'm going to use these substandard parenting skills instead. I'm going to badger you, give you a guilt trip, cajole you, maybe give in to you, like buy you the candy that you're throwing a tantrum over in the candy aisle. All of those things that I know are actually not the gold standard in parenting. They're not doing right by my child, but I'm going to choose them anyway. What we are actually saying is what other people's opinions are of me and my child, that's more important to me than my child. And most of the time, those people that we have decided are more important than our kid are complete strangers. And not only are they strangers, they're people you ain't never going to see again. There's no flipping way that if I asked you, who is more important to you, your child or this random stranger in front of you on the airplane, that you would pick the stranger. But that's what you're doing when you decide to let your mortification be your guiding light instead of your love and integrity for your child. So, if that perspective helps you at all, this is the perspective that I have used for myself so that I absolutely let my child throw a tantrum in the grocery store instead of trying to stop it. And when I say let him throw a tantrum, like, let's be honest. You think I am the one who decides whether or not my kid throws a tantrum in the grocery store? I'm not. It's not about me letting him do it. It's about me not resisting the fact that he is doing it. I absolutely will do that because I know what needs to happen is that my kid has to throw a tantrum. And while he's throwing his tantrum, I hold my boundary. I don't give him the candy. I don't get upset. I don't get escalated. I don't try to convince him otherwise because all of those things would be really poor parenting. And that might mean that somebody I don't know listens to my kid be a little bit unpleasant for a while. That might happen, and I wish it didn't. It's not that I hate a stranger. It's just that I'm not willing to do something that I know isn't delivering the best parenting possible to my child because of that stranger. And that I also have to, and this is the part where, if you listen to my podcast last week about possible divorce and conscious uncoupling and stuff, we talked a lot about sitting in your shit and owning your stuff. This is the real truth. Like, it's not that you actually care if another person is having an unpleasant experience. It's that you care what that person might think of you because they've had an unpleasant experience. Think about it. You don't really care more about the stranger than you care about your kid. When we compromise our parenting because of our embarrassment, the real thing that we're doing is choosing ourselves over our kids. We are too embarrassed and we don't like how it feels to think that someone might think poorly of us or have an unpleasant experience and blame us. We hate how that feels. And for some people, the feeling of having others' negative opinions of us or blame on us is so unpleasant, it's intolerable. And when it's intolerable, then we wind up parenting in these substandard ways and really, in a really crazy way, deciding that our discomfort is more important. It's the most important thing. Getting rid of that discomfort is the most important thing. And when you think about it that way, that's basically the challenge in almost every parenting situation. Our discomfort is the thing that we are working hard all the time to figure out how to tolerate so that we don't compromise our parenting. The discomfort we feel when our kid is unhappy with us, the discomfort that we feel when our kid makes a poor decision and maybe gets a bad grade, the discomfort that we feel. I just had a conversation with my junior in high school kiddo who's realizing, like, oh, the most I can hope for when I apply to colleges is a 3.5 GPA, and I don't like this. And what did I do as soon as that conversation was over? I started Googling around, you know, how to get around not so great GPA, blah, 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 when you're applying to college. Like the discomfort I felt at watching my son not get into the college he wanted to go to, I have to tolerate that. Otherwise, I'm going to be rescuing him and doing a bunch of heavy lifting that's actually his job, all of that stuff. This is about our discomfort and getting comfortable with that discomfort. For me, that moral quandary of saying I refuse to choose a stranger or myself over my child helps me feel a very strong drive to figure this out and sit in my discomfort and not give in to all the things that would be like sort of escape strategies for me. And I hope that that helps for you too. I hope that you can start to see, wow, if I could just work on this whole comfort with discomfort thing, it wouldn't matter. Wouldn't matter what my mother-in-law thought or this checkout lady thought or the person at the playground thought. It wouldn't matter. Wouldn't matter. And once it doesn't matter, now I can really toe the line and be on the straight and narrow as a parent with my kiddo. And that is where people like me come in. When you have a coach in your corner helping you figure out, like, how do I sit in that discomfort? What can I do differently? And this is why I have a job. It's really hard to do this stuff on your own. If you're starting to feel like you're ready to have some support in your corner, you're interested, you're curious. You keep hearing me talking about the group and you're like, what is that all about? Why don't you set up a free consultation? A lot of people don't set up that consultation because they think, oh, this lady has a podcast. She's talking about these really high level experiences. Schools are bringing her in to talk and teach the staff. I probably can't afford her. Don't be so sure. Don't be so quick to count yourself out. And my commitment to you always is that if you're committed to this work, I'm committed to making it possible for you to do the work. So if you've been thinking about learning more, if you're curious about the group, if you're curious about private work, if you're curious about couples work, now is the time to set up that free consultation and tell me all about your stuff because I'm curious about you. And I will answer all your questions about working with me. But not only that, I will give you my honest and direct feedback about your unique, specific circumstance and help you connect the dots between where you're at right now and where you want to be. Have a great week, everybody, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.
The episode is over, but there's more waiting for you. You can grab my free workbook, Getting Kids to Listen the First Time, that walks you through the fundamental principles I teach all of my clients and applies them to this very universal parenting challenge. So if you're sick of repeating yourself all day long or just want to learn more about my style, you'll definitely want to go to bit.ly/kidswholisten. And if you're ready to work with me, let's meet. Set up a free call at bit.ly/Kaplan call, and let's create an action plan that gets you exactly where you want to go. And of course, links to all this goodness are in the show notes. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time.